Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heal and Restore
Give,
podcast.
give me that smile again, honey.
That's fine.
Yeah. No, not that one.
That one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
The happy
You're
smile.
mean to me.
I
Ah,
know.
yeah. I'm always smiling inside just because I don't have it on your face.
Yeah.
But the Heal and Restore podcast with your host, Randy Boyd, and the hostess with the mostest, Mrs. Cathy Boyd.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Welcome. We're a couple cornballs, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's because we enjoy life.
Yeah.
And we enjoy each other.
Yeah. Gotta have fun in life.
Gotta have fun. Gotta let the little kid come out in us
Yeah,
now and then,
That's
right?
fun. Yeah.
So it's August. It's the third.
Still August.
Still August.
Mhm.
It's the
Still hot.
third episode of Infidelity and Trust Recovery.
Yeah.
Right. The first two were. I hope you got something out of the first two.
Yeah. And if you didn't, I encourage you to go back.
Go back
You
and
know, whether you have experienced any type of physical or emotional infidelity. These are some really good. It's a tough topic, but it's a good informative topic to talk about, to listen to.
Yes.
If you know somebody that may have experienced this, encourage them take a listen as well. So
Exactly. These podcasts never go away. So
yeah, they're there
feel
for
free
you.
to go back and review them as much as you want. So
Yeah. So what was the first one?
the first one
week
we talked
had
about how to rebuild trust.
yeah.
And that's a journey in itself,
Right. Yeah,
But
there's some steps to that process.
exactly. But Cathy and I have been through infidelity on my part, and we were able to rebuild our trust, our
Mhm.
love for each other, and our forgiveness. Cathy forgave me really quickly. So
Yeah.
and then we talked last week about when to consider coaching or counseling.
Right.
And that if you try to do this on your own, it's likely gonna not happen.
Yeah. It's almost without guidance, without mentorship, without coaching, without talking to somebody who has experienced it and can share what worked for them and how they got through it.
Right.
We don't know. We wouldn't have known if we had not sought our own help for
Well, actually, like there's a saying that we go by: you cannot transmit something you do not have.
Yeah.
And so, if Cathy and I would not have experienced, all the experiences we talk about on the podcast, we would have no right speaking on it. That's
No.
just that I feel very strongly about that.
And I'll just add, it's not just the experience of going through it, it's the healing experience
journey.
on the other side of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
just
key.
right.
It's not just, oh, you had an affair and this is what we did. No, we had to work through
It's the work that we
the
do.
process.
We share our experience, strength, and hope.
Yep,
It's
absolutely. And
exactly
everything we
what
do.
in everything that we do.
Yeah.
So,
this week, we're going to talk about moving forward together or apart.
and our prayer is always that you move together.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a
move
tough
forward
one, but we
together.
have to go there. So, let's just dive into it. I think it's tough, but we got to talk about it here. So
yeah, and like I said, Cathy and I, we worked through it. We had, we had a good therapist that helped us, and then a lot of these things that we're going to talk about, we had to do ourselves.
absolutely, yeah.
So the first one is assessing the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. We got to evaluate the foundation of the relationship. Was it strong before the infidelity?
That's good.
And we have to really look at that. And if it wasn't strong,
not just look at it, but look at it with honest,
Yes.
open heart, because it's easy to, in the hurt, to just say, oh, no, it wasn't good, which I immediately did at the beginning. I felt, oh, no, this isn't going to work. But I had to evaluate the foundation of our relationship from the beginning, not just where infidelity took place.
Exactly.
And I think that's the key, is going all the way back to the beginning.
Right.
And you helped me along the way, because I felt like everything was dark.
Right.
But I had to be reminded that there is a lot of good things in our marriage.
And that, it's real easy to point the finger at somebody else. But again, I'm going to talk about rigorous honesty. And that starts within ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves about everything. If we're not, we're just living a lie. Right. And it's like Cathy said, it was 21 years we were married before I had the affair. And we had, I think, honestly, to be honest with you, there's two things that play the big key in our survival of this affair. Was one, you were the first person I ever told about my abuse. And so I think that played a little key to it, right? But we also did have a fairly strong foundation in our marriage up until you know, 3 or 4 years before I had that affair.
Right.
We did have a really good, you know, foundation.
Right.
We fell in love with each other early on because we just, you know, God was working in our lives, and we weren't walking with God, but He was
No.
definitely working with
Yeah,
us,
he was
right?
like, "Okay, when are you gonna come
Yeah.
along here?" But,
So
you know, and in that process of, you know, looking at your foundation, we have to go back and understand our personal and shared values and goals. And we
yeah,
did have a lot of personal
yeah,
shared values and goals. You brought value and goals to the marriage. I had values and goals that I brought to the marriage, and then we created our own values and
right,
goals.
exactly.
And so, you know, 21 years before an affair happens, it's, you know, it's hard to ignore those 21 years.
It's really hard to
You
ignore
know,
those
we can't.
21
So we
years. So
had to look back at that stuff.
you know, if you do look back and you go back to looking at the foundation of your marriage, if
Yeah.
there was a crack in it, right? We know what my crack was,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You have to find out where what that crack is, one, and what was the root of that crack.
Yeah.
You know, what was it that
What's
created that
growing
crack?
in your crack?
Yeah, what's growing in your crack? Oh, that sounds really
Yeah,
good.
that
Yeah,
sounded good, huh? I
yeah,
just thought I'd throw that in
yeah,
there.
that's nice, Cathy. So, I mean, yeah, so you
Silly
gotta
me.
figure out what's the root of that crack,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that it can be repaired, right?
Because
It
sometimes it might just be a little chip, and
it
just chipping away, it starts
exactly,
getting the crack starts
right.
growing and getting bigger. So we gotta understand it before it separates completely.
Exactly, and, if we don't know what the root of
Mhm.
that crack is, then we're not gonna be able to heal it.
Yeah.
And Kathy and I are firm believers that no matter what we go through in marriage, as long as there's a little bit of love left in the marriage, as long as both partners want the marriage to work out or
Right.
the relationship to work out, and as long as both partners are willing to do the hard work,
Mhm.
right, to heal it, you can heal. It's painful, it
Yeah.
hurts,
There's a
and
lot
it's
of work
hard. There's a
involved with
lot of
it.
work, but
Yeah. Yeah, and then that leads to the next one, you know,
right.
is the healing and forgiveness
Yeah,
component of this. This is,
yeah.
and that is a process. It's going to take time. But the role of forgiveness is healing both for yourself or oneself and for the relationship. So, you know, the person that causes the harm and the infidelity, they have to learn to forgive themselves
Mhm,
as well as forgive the
mhm.
relationship. The person who was harmed has to be willing to work at forgiveness towards the person who's hurt them and for the relationship. So both parties have to come together in that journey.
Yeah, it's hard because people have a misconception of forgiveness, and
Mhm.
the reality is when you first work on forgiveness, it's really not for the other person, it's for yourself.
Right.
You're forgiving that person for the harm that they caused to you, for yourself. So it's like Kathy said, she's asked, "How did you forgive him so quick?" And Kathy says, "Because I don't want to be in prison."
Yeah, no,
Right,
I didn't want to stay a victim.
right,
I
exactly.
saw
So
victim in you for many, many years, and that was not very pretty. I'll be
right.
honest with you.
No, and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And you know, a lot of people have told Kathy, "I can't believe you stayed with him. I would have left." Blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah. I mean, so you know, there's a lot of dynamics, and those people that said that until they've been put in that
I was just gonna
position,
say,
you
yeah.
know, then it gets real. They'll probably look at things a little bit
Mhm.
differently. And you know, again, if one of the partners, let's just say that if really didn't want it to work out, and
Mhm.
said, "Nah, you know, I'm done. We're just gonna wash away. I don't want to deal with it." Right? Well, there's two things that happen then. Number
Mhm.
one, you lose a family that you might have worked on, like I did for 21 years, and it's going to carry over into your next relationship.
Mhm.
If you don't fix the problem,
Yeah.
you can't go into another relationship and expect it to be any different.
No.
It's not going to be.
No.
Period.
The problem is within, so you've gotta work on
Exactly.
that, and so healing and forgiveness is I hate to say mandatory, it's necessary to move forward, whether in your current relationship or any future relationship.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
just gonna carry it over if not.
And when you forgive somebody, you're not telling them it was okay what they did,
No,
right?
not at all.
No, and it's not negating the pain because it hurts.
Yeah.
You've been hurt,
No,
and
it's
so
there.
it's not all that stuff. It's not saying that I'm going to forgive you, but I've been hurt so deeply, and there's been other hurts in our marriage, but this is the worst that I don't know if I can move forward.
Mhm.
Okay, but you're still forgiven the person, but that doesn't mean that you have to continue on in the relationship.
Right.
again, you both have to want the relationship to work.
Gotta be
over
willing
here.
to do
Right,
that, yeah.
exactly.
And then there's strategies for
Yes,
practicing self-care and self-compassion during the process of healing and forgiveness.
exactly.
And there's several different things that you had to do, things that I had to do. Mindfulness and meditation, getting into that quiet place and just slowing your mind down and having a conscious contact with God
Mhm.
is I know that definitely helped you when you
Right.
got into your recovery. Gentle affirmations to
Yeah.
self and to the other
And to the
person.
other person.
Bring back what makes you feel good through those affirmations.
Exactly. I mean, you can go on the meditations, you can do quiet sitting meditation, right?
Mhm.
Where you just sit, maybe have some meditation music, or you can go outside and walk on the beach, wherever the beach, the wilderness, or just walk around the block, but
Mhm.
being very mindful of being
Be
present,
present. Yeah, be present.
right where you're at. You got to be mindful of the moment that you're at. So
Mhm.
that way you can enjoy the beauty that surrounds you.
Right, and in that brings peace,
Yes,
brings a calmness
right.
to the chaos that might be going on, and this is not just a one and done, this is a
No,
practice that you would want to implement
yes,
on a daily basis, a
right,
regular basis,
right, exactly.
and those general affirmations, that was definitely helpful for my healing, I'll
Hmm.
just say,
Hmm.
because I had that reassurance of
Right,
my value, I had
yeah,
the reassurance of who I was and how you saw me,
right,
telling me that I was beautiful, apologizing, and you still do. Here we're 20 years later, and there's still times where you
I
will
get,
just get into a place where you just are reminded of what you did
right,
20 years ago and still giving me
right.
affirmations of your apology, affirmations of who I am,
And this can be, I was the one that did it.
cause the harm.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be the opposite way around. It could be the wife that's causing the
Mhm.
harm.
Yeah.
Okay. And we do have uh, some couples that have had that happen.
Right. It's
So it doesn't matter what we're talking about, who did it.
who caused the harm. This
It
can work for both
yeah, the
parties.
strategies are the same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
The other thing is getting social support.
Yeah.
Now, I will say
I
social support can be dangerous if you're
yes.
getting your social
Yes.
support in the wrong crowd.
Right.
So be very cautious and very mindful of who you're sharing this stuff with.
Yes.
Um, you know, I didn't know any better. I took it immediately to my sister, to my dad. I mean, my coworkers, I blah, blah, blahed it everywhere. And yes, that helped me in the moment, but in the long run, it didn't help their perception of who Randy was.
Right.
And so we have since worked through that,
Yeah.
healed through that. But again, being mindful of who your social support system is. And you don't want to just go run into anybody.
No.
Go to somebody who's maybe experienced it so they can share their experience, share their hope.
You want to go. You want to make sure that when you go to somebody, that it remains with that person,
Yeah.
because it's that's what Kathy says. You've got to know the social support that you're going to, because uh, unfortunately, more often than not, you tell somebody something, it's going to be through the entire county or valley or wherever you're at,
Yeah.
by the end of the day. So
And
you
getting
got to be really careful.
and getting too many opinions
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah.
creates the chaos as well. So
Absolutely.
you
Actually, we ask when we have clients, if you're going to work with us and we're going to work with you, then we ask that you just stay with us.
right. Yeah, too many opinions can goof things up.
Absolutely.
The other part of it, which you are so good at, is the physical exercise.
Yes.
I mean, the fact that your mind and your body was going through a lot afterwards,
Hmm.
part of your healing journey was being physically active,
Yeah,
getting your
absolutely.
endorphins fired up
Yep.
so you weren't just sitting with the thoughts.
Right.
Because not only does it affect your mind, it affects your body,
Right.
your organs, the blood pumping through you. When we've got trauma or we've got um, a PTSD or an experience that has harmed us emotionally, it affects us
It affects
physically.
us
Yeah.
physically. Absolutely. So it's those feel good endorphins. And it's like, again, it
Mhm.
goes back to when you're exercising. If I went to the gym a lot of times, if I was having a bad day, dealing with people, the business I had and things just weren't good, I would hit the gym and I'd be able to work out my
Yeah.
frustrations, and those feel good endorphins would kick in, I'd be okay. or, we used to hike this trail called the Bump and Grind, and it was called Magic Mountain for all the recovery centers that were in the Coachella Valley. And I can remember, I mean, I would walk up and down that mountain, and I would enjoy everything that was up there. I just enjoyed being outside, and I was real mindful of looking at, I loved, of a bunch of ravens got the wind draft in a little cut in the hill. I sit and watch them, and then I would watch these people, and I always said hi to everybody,
Mhm.
right? And these people would walk up that hill as fast as they could with their head down, not looking at anybody, not talking to anybody. It's like, what are you guys? Why are you doing this?
Mhm.
I mean, be mindful of where you're at and
Right.
what's around you when you're doing that. Enjoy the peace, enjoy the serenity
Yeah.
that's in those areas.
Yeah, that's really
Um,
good. Yeah, and the other one too, it's really important for both parties is boundaries.
yeah,
Sitting down, part of self-care and self-compassion is having boundaries for yourself.
exactly.
The boundaries, I'll just remind people, the boundaries are not for others. The boundaries are for yourself.
Yes.
So, sitting down and realizing that, whether you were the person that caused the infidelity or you were on the receiving
Right.
end of the infidelity, both parties need to have
Have the
boundaries.
boundaries.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about boundaries too, is they're very uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I had a client call me the other day. Why does it seem so hard? Why these feelings? And it's because you're changing.
Yeah.
You're not, when you set a boundary, it's something that you're not used to doing.
Yep.
And so I'm telling you, you'll have all sorts of thoughts going through your mind when you set that boundary.
Yeah. No.
But you're doing it for yourself, and in the long run, the more you set those boundaries, the easier they become.
Right. And then the last one in this strategy for practicing self-care is have compassionate reflection.
Yes.
Be able to
Yeah,
sit with
absolutely.
yourself in a
Right.
quiet place and have compassion towards yourself and reflect and get into those areas that are uncomfortable
Yeah,
so that you don't have to stay stuck in them. Get them
exactly.
there, journal with them, reflect on your whys, reflect on your hows, reflect on what you're doing going forward.
Yes, yes.
So you don't stay stuck in that cycle.
The other thing you're gonna wanna reflect on, and this, you have to do this. Remember, when you have an affair, you just dropped a pebble in a perfectly calm pond,
Hmm.
and the ripple effect of an affair goes a long way.
Yeah.
Farther than you think it does. Like, "Well, I'm just hurting. I'm not hurting nobody. I'm doing, blah,
Yeah.
blah." No, you're hurting a lot of people. It wasn't just Cathy. It
Yeah.
was my children. It was her family, right?
Yeah.
It was our friends. And I'm gonna say this, even though the other person knew I was married, there was a lot of harm done on her side too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we have to be very
The
mindful,
multitudes.
right? We have to be and we have to be compassionate towards everybody,
Yeah.
right? Now, compassion towards everybody just means, like, with the woman I had the affair with, I walked through a certain process with my mentor, and I never
Mhm.
saw her, never, it was never involved. But it's like I'm doing that, and it was writing a letter. I had to do that to let myself go,
To release
to
yourself.
release myself from that
Right.
relationship.
That soul tie.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
soul tie. So, but you have to. I'm going to tell you this about any kind of work on this infidelity, emotional or physical. You have to have a really, really strong coach or mentor walking with you,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not easy.
It's not for the faint.
It's
Yeah.
not for the
Yeah.
faint.
And then what we do is we get down to, making the decision. There's factors to consider when deciding whether to stay together or to part ways.
Right.
You have to sit down and be able to have a
Right.
constructive conversation about the future of your relationship.
Yep.
What is it going to look like? So we've come up with some ideas on moving forward together. And these are things that we have done ourselves.
Right.
And it's steps for rebuilding a stronger relationship post infidelity.
Exactly.
And so the first one, and you hear us talk about this is whether you've been affected by infidelity or not, commit to open communication.
Period.
Yeah, every
Period.
marriage needs this, but more important after post infidelity, do you need
Right.
that? The way that we can be open to that communication is just by acknowledging the issues.
Right.
Both parties have to be open and honest about what happened and be able to express the feelings without blame. And again, that's a hard task, but if you have a mentor or a coach that you're doing that with, have that neutral third party so that you can get through that together.
Yes, and we have to remember this. Nobody can make you say,
Yeah,
do, or feel anything you don't want to do, say, or feel.
right,
Period.
right.
They're not God.
Yep.
So what happens is you have a choice.
And
you made a choice, probably against your better judgment, I would say.
right.
You made a choice to dive into this affair. You can't blame it on, well, my wife or husband was this, and the other
Yeah.
thing, or they had an affair, so I'm gonna have one. Not
No.
that's a game. We don't play those games. It's just
Right.
like, let's get down to business. Let's admit our fault in whatever it is on both parties.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that's
And
part
let's
of
move
the
forward.
healing journey too. And then part of that, that communication is being able to listen actively. And we talk about this too, is make space for each person to share their emotions.
Right.
Practice active listening without interrupting or becoming defensive.
Absolutely.
And part of active listening is being vulnerable.
And
Being vulnerable to receive what they have to say, being vulnerable to also speak what you have to say.
and this is really important. And this is what we did, what my therapist had told me. She says, you, after all, you did it to her, Randy. So she says, if Cathy wants to talk about that affair,
Yep.
you have to sit down and you have to listen to it.
Yes.
And your only feedback is gonna be, yeah, you have a right to feel that way. I fully understand why you feel that way. Right. And just know that I'm working really hard, not trying to get rid of the word trying. I'm working really hard on getting rid of all my old defects and becoming the husband that God intended me to be for you.
Right.
So we have to validate and acknowledge their pain. It doesn't matter if it was 15 years, 15 years into our relationship and we were doing really well. I was working with another life coach and it was a female. And I came home one night and I know I've said this before, but we have to reiterate this stuff. And Cathy looked at me and I go, what's wrong? Nothing. Nothing's wrong. I go, Cathy, what's wrong?
It's
And she goes,
silly now to like giggle at it, but
yeah,
that was where I was. That was my space.
And she said, okay, I'm worried about you and this other person working so much together all the time. Now, I could have said, are you got to be kidding me? It's
but what did you say?
Years,
you don't have to go there. What did you say?
Well, what I said was, I've been waiting for this conversation. You have a right to feel that way, and I understand why you feel that way. And I just reassured her there was nothing to worry about.
Right, and that leads in, and this is where I want to go with this final one under the communication, is for the person who's been betrayed, me in this case.
Yeah, right.
I had to be able to express my hurt, but I also had to acknowledge any underlying relationship issues that I may have contributed to the situation.
Yes.
That was hard because I thought I was the perfect wife. I was, I was a provider, I was a nurturer, I was, all those things, but I had to look at things inwardly at myself. Now, it doesn't mean that I caused the infidelity, but I had a part of being married to you, and there were certain things that I had to look at within myself. But the biggest thing is I had to be able to express my hurt. And just like what you were sharing that happened 15 years later, even all those years later, I had to be able to say, hey, this is bothering me.
Right, exactly.
So there's no end. There's no end. I think our forgiveness process through infidelity will be ongoing.
Absolutely.
As it should be. It's not like there's an elephant in the room. We're never going to talk about it again. That's why we're having these podcasts, that we can share our experience, because when we're sharing our experience, we're sharing our healing and we're still taking responsibility for our own healing at the same time.
Exactly. I mean, maybe a guy comes to say, my wife's always nagging at me. Well, I wonder why she's nagging at you. And that's a whole nother thing. But you probably never sat down and listened to what she had to say. That's why communication is extremely, and we don't mean, well, we communicate, we talk. No. There's deep communication.
Yeah. And then the next strategy is taking responsibility. Yeah. And this is something that I am so grateful for you. For the unfaithful partner, he took full responsibility for his infidelity without justifying or blaming external circumstances. Now, his first thought was, well, it's the drugs and alcohol,
Which had a part in it.
which had a part in it, but that wasn't the whole reason
No.
why. He had to go, you had to go in
I had to go
and
deeper.
go deeper. Okay, that's the surface stuff. What's below that?
Right.
And so it was really important for me to have you be able to do that, not only for yourself,
Right.
but for myself and for
Well,
our
yeah.
family.
Yeah, because it had nothing to do. The only thing Cathy did wrong
Mhm.
was she loved me unconditionally.
Right.
Right. And at that point, it's like, I don't deserve to be loved this way. Something ain't right,
Right.
because that was all based on my past abuses, right?
Mhm.
And it was a lie in my head. I believe, so I fell under the lie. And
Right.
so it really had, nothing to do with Cathy.
No,
Yeah.
but the fact that you took responsibility
Right.
was key
Exactly.
to rebuilding that.
Exactly.
And then we talked about a little bit about rebuilding trust and what's required to rebuild trust. And it's transparency and consistency.
That's
I mean, two key words, transparency and consistency. The unfaithful partner has to be completely transparent
Yep.
about their actions moving forward,
Yep.
including sharing phone records, social media. We talked about that in the very first episode.
Yeah.
What it doesn't mean is transparency and telling every silly detail of the affair. That's not necessary.
That's not necessary.
That's, to me, that just stirs up more harm
Right.
in the relationship.
Right.
And then the consistency is the trust being rebuilt through consistent actions over time.
Over time.
Which you talk about a lot.
Exactly. It's a consistency of change of behavior, attitude,
Mhm.
dialogue,
Yeah.
conversations over a period of time. You have to be consistent, and not for a month, not for 2 months. You're gonna learn to be consistent for the rest of your life.
Right. And it doesn't have to be big, giant things. These
No.
should be small things you do every single day.
Right.
That builds the trust
Right.
back into the relationship. So it's not like one large thing. It's everyday small
Yep.
actions that you
Yep.
have to take.
Yep.
And then the other part is allow time for healing. I mean, this is not okay, we're 2 weeks in and everything should be better. We're still healing. We still have our moments of where we have to do the self-evaluation. So
Again, it goes back to getting to the root of everything,
Mhm.
because we have to understand that the affair, whether it's emotional or physical, probably didn't start the day you did it. It
No.
probably started way before that.
No.
And that's why we always say that we don't believe your marriage is broken. What happens is, as individuals, we have a whole lot of baggage we carry into our
We gotta-
marriage.
yeah.
And we don't see it at first.
we got to
right?
unpack it.
We got to unpack it. So you might have, probably, I think the average person probably has at least 20 years of these behaviors and actions and that they've been dealing with, right? And so it's so ingrained in the fiber of their being and in their neural pathways that we have to, the part of the thing is we have to re-record our neural pathways. So it's not just like we go in and we can turn it off. It takes time, because it is so ingrained in the fiber of your being, these old behaviors.
Right. And the thing that I just want to, not only does it take time, there's going to be setbacks. Both partners are going to, both partners might slip up.
Yeah.
But we have to have patience with each other in the process.
And
we have to have grace.
Yep.
We have to have understanding. We have to have empathy, sympathy, compassion. I mean, all of those things are so important with time.
Exactly. And, we've had several of our clients that have, they've had a hiccup, and it's usually the men.
Yeah.
And the partner gets pretty pissed off and, this is it. I'm not going to do it. But we end up, getting them back, say, listen, this part of the journey, we told you there was going to be hiccups. So it's just a matter of, again, when you have a hiccup, right away, confess to it, admit to it, right? And then face the consequences, whatever they are. And if your spouse or partner wants to get mad at you, they have a right to. So let them work through their feelings, hopefully with a good mentor or coach.
Right. But those hiccups and stuff, that's where the growth happens.
That's where the growth
So
happens.
I don't blame, shame, or anything.
No,
I'm like a big cheerleader when people have a hiccup,
because
because that's where change will take place.
The one thing Cathy and I love to do, no matter what happens between sessions, and somebody has a hiccup, well, they got to talk about it. But we love to affirm them. That we're never going to put them down. Listen to them, ask them what we ask them a lot of questions, but we know there's a silver lining.
There is always,
and we will always tell them, okay,
yeah.
So, but you did this, you did that. We find everything we can affirm for.
Yeah. So in the time of healing, though, the one thing that's really important is giving emotional space. Each party needs time to process their emotions. It can be anger, it can be grief, it can be confusion. We have to be able to respect each other's emotions because that's a key to healing.
Yes.
And we can't heal if I'm ignoring my own emotions, I'm not helping myself and I'm not helping my marriage. I'm not helping you.
Right.
So we have to be able to open up emotional space for the healing. And that's why it takes time, because those emotions are going to come and go. They're not going to be like all at once. They might start out all at once. And then you might heal an area of anger, but then something will trigger that anger to come back. And we just got to be vulnerable, open, and transparent. Okay, I'm feeling this way.
Right.
I just need some emotional space to heal.
And again, like if your anger gets triggered again, okay, that's okay. Now, where's that trigger? Where's that trigger? What caused that trigger?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we don't know we have a trigger, right? And somebody just says something they might have said 10, 20 times before.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they say something one day and you go off. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That was a trigger. So where's that trigger from? What's the root of that trigger?
Right.
Until we get the root of any of these issues, you're not going to be able to heal properly.
Right. You want to get there.
Right.
You want to get there. And this category or this strategic part of the plan is a hard one, but God, is it such a freeing one when you can get there.
Yeah.
And that's to focus on forgiveness.
Right.
You know, we forgive, but we don't forget. These types of things we'll never forget.
No.
But it's essential in moving forward. But it doesn't mean you forget what happened.
No, not at all.
You know, I don't think about Randy having an affair every single day.
No.
Do I think about it? Yeah, it still pops in my head.
Yeah.
But it's about releasing that resentment and choosing to rebuild. And that is the thing. It's choosing to rebuild my relationship where it was left off.
There's three words that I want everybody to remove from their vocabulary when they talk to a victim of anything.
Yeah.
You just gotta forgive, forget, and move on. Do not use that language.
That's not going to work.
That's not going to work because it's going to drive them more down the rabbit hole. Yes, we have to forgive, but forgiving is a process. It does not happen at the blink of an eye. Sometimes it could take it took a couple of years for me with my abusers, but when I finally forgave them, I had a freedom I never thought I could have, right? We're never going to forget.
No.
I don't want to forget. There's a couple reasons why. And the reason is because I don't want to go back to where I was.
Right.
Right. I want to forget how bad it was. And number two, if I forget, I couldn't help the people and we couldn't help the people that we've been helping.
Yeah.
Number three, we have to move on. But the forgiveness and moving forward is a big process.
Right.
And we have to understand that it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
People, you have to understand this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And part of that forgiveness is mutual forgiveness.
Yeah.
You know, we have the unfaithful partner must seek forgiveness. And for me, forgiveness came in your actions.
Right.
Forgiveness came as you healed yourself. I was able to forgive.
Right.
But the betraying partner also, I had to also work towards healing myself.
Yes.
And healing the relationship. So it wasn't just a one-sided forgiveness.
No.
Randy had forgiveness for himself. I had forgiveness for myself. We both had forgiveness for the relationship. And it took time. Yes, sometimes I say that I forgave quickly, but I think I forgave quickly so that I could really, truly invest in the healing. Yes. You know, I didn't get stuck there. And I know that that's not everybody,
right?
But I know it's possible as well. And so that's why I want to share that. And then another thing that we have to work on is reconnecting and rebuilding intimacy. You know, emotional connection, you know, we have to work on rebuilding the emotional intimacy by spending quality time together, talking and sharing experiences. Emotional intimacy is so important in every relationship.
Yeah.
Regardless of your past. But after infidelity, it's even more critical. We have to reconnect on an emotional level before it can become a physical level.
And that emotional intimacy starts when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
And if you are the one that did the harm, you know, we hear people, well, I keep doing this and she's not changing. She's not going to change overnight.
Yeah.
She's not gonna
No,
change overnight,
it's a
right?
process.
You have to, as a, we'll just say as a perpetrator, that's a nasty word, but that's basically what it was,
Mhm.
right? We perpetrated the harm. It's our job to reestablish our truth of our emotional
Mhm. That's good.
strength and behavior towards our wife
Mhm.
or our husband,
Whoever the harming party
whoever the
was, yeah.
harming party is, the harm party is. So it's like, it doesn't matter if Kathy's not being receptive, you know, a certain day, because maybe she's having a day where she just like, I'm struggling today because I'm really thinking about the affair. And it doesn't matter how friendly I am, or
Yeah.
how nice and loving I am emotionally. She's having one of those days. And I just have to keep my side of the street clean.
Right, and that's
That's the
what
important
and
part.
that's what we talk about with physical
Yes.
intimacy as well. You know, you have to do that at a pace that is
Yes.
comfortable for both
Right.
partners. You know, that's
Exactly.
a lot to take in. And as from a woman's perspective, it's a lot. I'm not a man, so I don't know what it would take like if the shoe was on the other, but I would imagine the emotions are going to be very, very similar.
Yes.
But we have to take time in rebuilding a healthy sexual relationship. It's just part of the healing.
It's part of the healing. And
Yeah.
when the stronger your emotional
Intimacy
intimacy
is,
is,
yeah,
the better your physical intimacy will be. I mean, it will be 100
right.
times better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree. But it's gonna be a pace that
Okay.
works for you.
We have to remember that when we have even emotional,
Mhm.
more so physical, what that's saying to our partner is, you're not good enough for me,
Mhm.
right? You're not good enough
Yeah.
for me. So it creates this lot of self-doubt, self-esteem issues
Mhm.
in the partner that's been hurt.
Yeah.
And so we have to help them rebuild that self-esteem,
True. So, so
right?
true. Yeah. And then in this whole process, there's a lot of steps that we have to take
Right.
to get there, but we don't want to forget. Let's
No,
celebrate the progress. And we
absolutely.
want to acknowledge the milestones that take place,
Yep,
the small victories along the
yep,
way. You know, recognizing and acknowledging those, it's motivating. It's motivating to both parties
yes.
to keep working on the relationship. So we say a lot of times when we're talking with our clients, be the hero. Sometimes some people, you know, some are further along in their process of healing than the other, but be the hero and motivate your partner.
Yes,
You know, because if they're having a bad day, your motivation's going to pull them up.
right.
You know, it's not up to me to fix you, but it's up to me to encourage
Yeah,
you.
you wanna be understanding if they're having a bad day. Okay, they're having a bad day.
Yeah.
Is it about me? That's none of your business who it's about, to be
Right.
honest with you,
No.
right? And, like we tell everybody, baby steps.
Yeah.
So, oftentimes, the couples don't see the progress they've made,
No.
and that's one of mine and Kathy's job is to let them know how far they've come,
Yeah.
right?
A lot of times,
Despite any hiccups.
yeah, a lot of times others will see progress before we personally can see
Yeah,
that
yeah.
progress. So it's up to us as coaches to acknowledge that and to see that.
Exactly.
And in that process, we want to practice gratitude.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
when it's not just acknowledging that, but practice gratitude. Let the other person know how much you appreciate the hard work that they're putting
Yes.
into healing the relationship. You know, you got to give it away to keep it. So
Yeah.
if, you know, encouraging even in a difficult situation is so important. And then building new memories and
Well,
experiences
go
together.
back to that last one real quick, because that gratitude, right, is gonna play out for the rest of your life,
Mhm.
right? Kathy cooks dinner, you know, every night. I try to help her. I used to do it all myself, right? Because she was working. But I let her know all the time how much
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah.
every night when she's
Actually, what he tells me is, I wish you'd learn how to cook.
like, she knows I'm joking
I
when
know he's joking, but
you
yeah,
know, but I do.
but that's a compliment,
It's a
and
compliment,
I
right.
know that you're grateful for that, even
Yeah.
in that goofy compliment.
Right.
I enjoy that.
But I
So,
also tell you thank you every night. Every night
absolutely.
that you cook dinner
Yeah.
for me, I say thank you for the
Yeah,
dinner,
yeah.
right? And I always show my gratitude,
Yeah.
not only in words, but in actions a lot with Kathy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, if we can put these things in motion, it's going to allow us to build new memories and experiences together, which will replace the pain with the
Right,
joy.
exactly,
And honestly, I can say that that is where we are. We're living our life
right,
full of joy,
right,
because we have done the hard work to heal through that.
right.
So, um, you know, it's a tough journey, but it's doable.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. We were both willing. We both took the initiation and the steps necessary to do that. So, what it comes down to is, moving forward or apart, we have to embrace the healing process and we need to find closure.
Right.
That's how we could move forward.
Right.
Tips for co-parenting, if applicable, and maintaining respectful communication. If you've got kids involved, think about that. If you decide to move apart, have those hard conversations, have respectful communication when there's kids involved.
Here's a really important tip I want you all to hear. You have to, and probably pretty consistently and constantly, remind your children that it wasn't their fault.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
had nothing to do with it. It was mommy and daddy. We had some issues, blah, blah, however you want to do it. But you have to reassure your children it was not their fault.
Yeah, because they sense, they know.
Absolutely.
These kids are like sponges. They pick up on energy
Right.
faster than us adults do. So I just hope that this was a good topic. I think it was a good topic. I know it was one that we've experienced and a lot of the things that we went through. So, if you have struggled with infidelity and trust recovery and you have questions or you need help to get through that, reach out to us at healandrestorecounseling.com. That's our website. You can drop a message in there. You could email us direct at healandrestorecounseling@gmail.com.
Right.
And then if there are any other struggles that you're going through, drop it in there. Or if you want to hear a topic, if there's a particular topic, we're open to that. We would just love for you to just, hey, I want to hear something on blah, blah, blah.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Yeah. So it's very important that we can meet the needs of you, our listeners. So share that information with us. Yeah.
It's like Cathy said, even if there's no affair that happened in your marriage, we're here to help marriages, period. And then also, we're finding out that a lot of the marriages in one or both partners, there's trauma involved. So we work with trauma, we work with addiction as well.
Yeah.
So, if you listen to this podcast, if you find it helpful or interesting, even if it's just a little tidbits here and there, let your friends know about it. And then also, it's one real simple task we ask you all to do: press the like and subscribe button.
Yeah.
We're trying to get up to the point where we can start monetizing off of this.
Right.
Because Cathy and I do this out of our heart. We do it out of our own pocket.
Right. But I think more importantly than like and subscribe is share.
Is share.
Yeah. Because we know that your everyday listener, I have already done that.
Right.
But who can you share this podcast with that will benefit from it?
Exactly.
That's what we want you to do. Exactly. Share that with another person. Have them like and subscribe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's great.
Right.
Whew, that was heavy. That's good stuff.
Yeah. So we got one or two more podcasts for this month.
Yeah.
So that is one more.
Yeah.
And I've got something in mind for that. It might be kind of different than what we've been talking about, but no matter what, it's going to be good.
Is it because it's our anniversary that you're going to talk about how special I am and all the wonderful things I've done for you?
Like, I don't do that enough on this podcast.
Just have fun with you. Huh?
I know. First your birthday month and then our anniversary month.
I planned that pretty good, didn't I?
I'm surprised she didn't have our anniversary on her birthday, to be honest with you.
No, I wanted to have 2 days, so that would have taken away from one. A smart girl.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a dingbat is what you are, but I love you.
You're funny. All right, honey, that's good.
All right. So we hope you guys enjoyed this little 3-part series, and we hope it helps you in some way, shape, or form. And like we say, pass it on to your friends. And remember this: if nobody tells you they love you today, Randy does.
Cathy does.
More importantly, God does. Be blessed, everybody, and have a fabulous week.
Have a good one.